Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Podbites with Verna. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Verna Collins Odom, and we've been doing a Hidden Figures series for this season two, basically talking to people who are among us, living among us, doing phenomenal and interesting things, finding innovative ways of doing those things. And we just want to talk to them, just find out how they're doing it, how they're going about their life journey, how they're getting to what they want to do and the things that they've been called to do. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I see my guest is here. You're going to be so excited to meet her. She is a treat. I'm going to get her into the room and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Just one second. I'm going to lean up here. I always have to do this, and you all are always so patient. In interested in the wow when it comes to something. There are people that are doing such amazing things. And there she is right now. Matsy Moh, how are you?
I'm good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I was just giving people a little bit of background about the show and about you. And I wanted to kind of do that. But as you're seeing here, she has joined us. This is Matsy Moh. She is a musician. She is a composer. You're just so many things. You're a singer songwriter. The list goes on. She's a podcaster. And so she has taken a little bit of her time. And she's in the UK, by the way. So can I just talk to you a little bit about that time difference? But she's hanging out here with us to do our show. I appreciate it. How are you today?
I'm good, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be asked to be part of what you're doing. So thank you so much.
Well, I just really appreciate it. I wanted to let people know of the amazing things. And I say amazing because, first of all, I know you outside of this. And let me let you all know, I talked to Matsy Moh about, I called her because we both have podcasts. Hers is phenomenal. You've got to check it out. At the end, she's going to give you information as to where to find her, how to listen to her podcast, how to listen to her beautiful music. But I wanted to just tell you that when I called her, it was like a for me thing. It's like, hey, you're a podcaster. Somebody, my brother, happens to know you, and he just tells me great things about you. Let's talk. And she gave me some really great ideas that have worked into this season. So first of all, I want to say
Amazing.
thank you about that. I really appreciate all of your help. But
My
past that,
pleasure.
yeah, let's just jump into things. Let's talk about things. As I said, I listed all of those amazing things that you do. Tell me, as a child, who were you? I'm going to take us
hmm
back a little bit. Who were you? Were you
Oh
that kid who
God.
was singing around the house all the time, the house filled with music? Who were you?
I don't know. What I do remember, I have very strong memories of looking through my parents' record collection.
Okay.
And I have it here. I can't show you now, it's a mess, but I have their old record collection. I remember looking through the sleeves,
Yeah.
opening things up, looking at the pictures. I remember my parents, well, I remember three artists that my parents listened to all the time.
Okay.
I remember my dad used to listen to a lot of Miles Davis,
Okay.
and
Nice.
particularly one record that I didn't like because he used to listen to it at Christmas and it was so moody, Miles Davis in a Silent Way, which is just
Okay.
really moody, not Christmassy music.
Yes.
Then they used to listen to Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway,
Oh,
the
nice.
the duet, that
Yes.
album. It's a beautiful record. I still return to it to this day.
Okay.
Incredible. And then Rachmaninoff.
Oh,
And those are
wow.
those Slatislav Richter, and I can see the album. It was sort of this purpley pink color with
Yeah.
yellow writing. I think the record label was Decca or one of those ones that was red.
Yeah.
And so that's what I remember. So I remember music from that they listened to. I remember piano lessons.
Yeah.
But if I think about what was I like, I don't recall myself singing and dancing as a kid. I don't think I was one
Okay.
of those sort of putting on plays, and
Yeah.
performances. It
Yes.
wasn't really like that. But I do have very vivid memories of those three artists,
Yes.
and then playing the piano.
Well, I mean, you play amazingly. You definitely have to give your information as we head out, but we're just getting started. But always one would think that that would be kind of the background, that there'd be this music, and you're saying that you did listen. Were your parents musicians as well, or did they just enjoy music?
No, no. I mean, I come from a very academic family.
Okay.
My father's an economist. My mum is a sociologist. We had the kind of house that had books behind the books and piles of books and then
Yeah.
piles behind it. And I
Yeah.
remember my mum always complaining, just say, I'm sneezing so much, there's so much dust from all these books. That was what I remember. And just so, yeah, lots and lots of books.
Yeah.
So they weren't musical in that. I think they liked music, because I don't know anybody who doesn't.
Yeah.
But it wasn't one of those households where, you know, everybody played loads of instruments. It was an intellectual
Hmm.
Pan-Africanist, you know, anti-apartheid, because my father is South African, and you know, I grew up at sort of the tail end of the apartheid era. So it was
Okay.
lots of anti-apartheid struggle meetings, and lots of people arguing about politics
Hmm.
under a
Okay.
cloud of smoke. That was my that was my
Yeah.
going on marches. That was my childhood.
So then those sorts of things, because I want to talk a little bit about influences now. Those sorts of things, obviously, you talk about that on your website, that those sorts of things
Yeah.
influence your music. They influence, and I know that your dad, as you said, is from South Africa. Your mom is from Jamaica. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
those,
Yeah.
I want to talk, let's talk about influences. Tell me about the apartheid, the end of that. Tell me about how these things kind of made you and your music what it is and the observations that you've made and those sorts of things.
I think I always say my tagline is that I use creativity to promote social justice. So I have a very, very strong justice streak, and that impacts why I do the music I do, how I do it, um, who I'm trying to reach through it, um, kind of even how I present myself. I'm very aware that I'm Black and I'm female, um, and how I present myself as a Black female, Black woman really matters to me.
Hmm.
Um, as a sort of anecdote, so you know, I studied law at university, and we'll get into that another. But yeah, I studied law at university, but I
Yeah.
actually started writing music my first year of law at university, because I hated it. I hated my degree,
Okay.
and I yeah. So
Yeah.
so anyway, I remember being at home and just complaining to my mum. I was like, I just don't want to do this. I'm going to leave. I'm not going to do my second year. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
And at the time, we were watching, and this Irish, she was Zambian and Irish, this pop singer on the TV,
Okay.
and her name was Samantha Mumba, and she was like this pop singer.
Okay.
And I remember my mum saying to me, "What are you going to contribute to Black society?" And
Wow.
I remember saying, because that's what happens when you have the kind of parents I have. I
Yeah.
remember saying, white parents never ask their kids this.
Okay.
White parents, their kids get to do whatever. I was like, I don't know. I just want
Yes.
to do whatever I want to do.
You're like, that's huge,
You
mom.
know,
That's huge. Yes.
yeah, and this sort of, you know, we all like Black people carrying this sort of racial burden
Yes.
that everything we do is for the people.
Right.
But you know, I realize now that that's a tremendous privilege,
Mm.
that how I live my life does matter, that I do have a responsibility along with everybody else. It's not just my own, but I do
Mm.
have a responsibility to contribute to Black society, if you like. But I have chosen the medium as music, not, you know, law. So
Okay. But interesting how all of these things tie together because the law,
yeah,
obviously, you're not out practicing law, but your music is kind of out practicing law, if you think about it that
yeah,
way. And
that's
I
good.
love that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, about your influences as well, your musical influences, because I know that
Mm,
you kind of describe what your music, I mean, I look at it as a jazzy, it's just smooth. Can I just say that? First of all, it's smooth. So can you
thank
talk a
you.
little bit about that, your influences for your music?
Yeah, well, you know, my influences are very eclectic, even if it might not come across in what I do. So I grew up playing classical music, and in fact, I mean, you probably can't say I can turn it a little bit, but
Hmm.
this is the piano
Yeah.
I've been playing since I was 6. You know,
I
it's the
love
same
that.
piano.
Yes.
So yeah, so you know, classical, I learnt harmony through classical music. My piano teacher, who also actually she was South African, Jewish South African woman, she always used to tell me, you need to listen as you play. And I remember her, she used to, you know, she used to tell me this as a child, and I thought, what does she mean, listen? I'm obviously listening because I can hear.
Right,
But
right.
what she meant was to listen, because hearing and listening are different
Two
things.
different.
And
Hmm.
she used to get me to write down, when I was playing a piece of music, she'd get me to write down all the chords underneath. I might even have something here.
I love it.
But so this is like old. This is quite old.
Uh,
This is a Schubert
yes,
impromptu,
yes,
right? And so what
yes,
she'd get me to do underneath, you might be able to see. So I'd
yes.
have
I
to
can.
write the chords
Wow.
underneath, everything, right?
Yes.
But what it taught me to do was connect sounds with each other. That's what
Okay.
she, because actually when you're listening to between the sounds. And that's
Hmm.
what she taught me to do, even though my music isn't classical, but she
Okay.
taught me how to listen. And then as a teenager, I was massively into grunge music, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all of those people, sort of moody, teenagery,
Yeah.
depressed music, lots of guitars.
Yes.
Um, I really got into, there's a fantastic album that has really impacted, how I want to record things. And there's a rock and roll band from the South called the Black Crows, and they have
Yeah.
this gospel rock album called the Southern Harmony and Musical Companion, and it's rock and roll gospel music. Fantastic record.
Wow.
Then I really got into hip hop
Okay.
and the beauty of words and poetry,
Sure.
and then a lot of singer songwriters, Fiona Apple, Annie DeFranco, Michelle Ndegeocello, women that were kind of doing it their own way and writing music that meant something to them and they cared about musicianship. And then Joni Mitchell, I remember when I first listened to the album Blue, and that
Yes.
was probably like the famous one of hers. I remember listening to it thinking, oh, you don't have to write songs where everything rhymes, you
Okay.
know,
Yes.
or that you have to have a chorus, sort of verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus. You can actually just, she's a poet who
Yeah.
writes songs, and all of that impacted my songwriting. So my music, although perhaps if you hear it, you might think it sounds jazzy solely,
Yeah.
but there's a lot, I love rock and roll. There's a lot of rock and roll in there. There's the way I play, the piano is my classical influences. I care about words, which is the singer-songwriter, the hip hop influences. I care about arrangements, which is, the classical, and it's all in there, but then it kind of comes out in my way.
So you're like the consummate, I want to let people know, just, and I don't know if this is, I hope this sounds positive because this is how I mean it, professional when it comes to your craft. And I love how you just have all of these ideas and they're always swirling around, but you are very pointed and very focused when you are
Mm-hmm.
doing your work, when you're doing your composing. I know that you work with other folks and you collaborate, but when we were
Yeah.
talking on the phone, you're telling me about how you do that. And it kind of, I think when you're a creative, and I find it interesting because nowadays, when you think about it, creative is everywhere. I mean, it's in the
Mm-hmm.
sciences. So when you have STEM, we have now STEAM, so the
Yeah.
creativity is everywhere. But when you're thinking about creating and you're thinking about all of these ideas, how did you get all of these influences? How did you lasso everything and make it your style? How did you do that?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think the thing with creating is that if you care about what you're creating as an expression of who you are, the more you have a sense of who you are, the more it just
Hmm.
comes out in your
Yeah.
music
Okay.
or in your art or whatever the thing that you're doing. And it only comes by doing it. You
Yep.
can't, the more you do it, the more you're like, okay, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And obviously, when people hear the songs that an artist has made,
Hmm.
but that artist, they're old. By the time they've sat and recorded them and they've mixed it and mastered it, some of these songs are like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and you're already on to the next thing. So you're listening to stuff that might be current for you, that for the artist just feels old.
Yes.
But I'm learning that you kind of just have to put it out there, and it's just an expression of who I am.
Hmm.
And I think when I'm making something, I'm more interested in, okay, what am I trying to say? How do I want this to feel? I'm talking. So I don't know if, for example, I watched this film called Loving, about
Yes.
George, not George. Is it George and Mildred Loving? That was their names, wasn't
I
it?
call them the lovings. So
The
we
Lovings,
know, yeah,
exactly.
we know the story. We know what you're talking about, but remind people these are the folks that go ahead, talk about that.
Yeah. So he was white, she was black. They
Yes.
lived in Virginia. Um, he got, their marriage was deemed illegal because they were a mixed race couple. It went to the Supreme Court. The court overturned the decision, and mixed race couples could marry. But I remember watching a film. There's a Jeff Nichols film called Loving, about this
Hmm.
couple,
Right.
and I was so moved by them. I was moved by how quiet they were. but there was such a like quiet resilience. Like we love each other. It's not complicated to us. We just want to be together, and we're not eloquent with our words,
Yeah.
but this matters to us. And it really moved me, because often when I think of resilience and activism, I think of noise, I think of being in the streets, I think loud, I think
Yes.
force, I think all
Yes.
of those things. And those things aren't bad.
Right.
But I watch these people with their quietness. And so, for example, I was so moved by it that I wrote a song. And so there's a line in the song that says, what if quietness isn't doubt? What if quietness is resolute?
Yes.
Because often people think when people are quiet, it means that, I don't know, they don't know what to say or they're scared. But actually, they were like, well, this is simple to us. And, you know, there's the line in the film that Richard Loving, Richard said to his lawyer, the lawyers that were representing them, when they said, you know, do you want to tell the court anything? And he just said, tell the court I love my wife.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, it was just so simple. And so
And so
I was
deep, but so
moved.
simple. Yes. Yes.
Exactly. And so, and I wrote a song about that because it moved me. And I wasn't thinking at the time, I want to write a song about a couple who are mixed race, and I want to try and make a point about mixed race relationships. That's not what I was thinking. I saw a piece of art, it moved me, and I wanted to write about it.
Yeah. That song is
And
called
so
Quiet
that's,
Love, by the way. I wanted to
yeah,
just let people know
yeah,
as you're looking up items here, that's what it's called.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's, for me, it's like, feel like writing something about sometimes I am, if for example, like at the moment I'm making an album and that's a different beast, if you like,
Okay.
that I'm trying to make something coherent. So if I'm trying to make something coherent and not just lots and lots of disparate songs, we started recording last year, and we went in the studio, and we ended up with songs that were really big, long, intense songs, which I love. But I was thinking, you can't have an album full of 6-minute intense songs.
Okay.
So I had to go back and think, okay, I need things that allow people to breathe in the middle. Because then I'm thinking like a producer, I'm like, how do I want people to experience this album?
Right.
And so then I'm like, okay, I need to write songs that have a simple verse and a chorus that are easy to connect with straight away, that the harmonies are simple, they're not complex, that the word, that it's a bit light, because some of the songs are really, really intense and about all
Right.
these feelings. So then I'm thinking a bit more like a producer, because I'm, like I said, I'm thinking about something that's coherent, but, and then I'm thinking a bit in a slightly different way, but at the same time, I have to feel what I'm writing. I have to think, yeah, no, this feels good,
Mm-hmm.
or this doesn't feel good. And it's a very instinctive feeling, even if I'm approaching it in a quite a pragmatic way.
And you said that when you're writing and you're composing and you are putting together, because you play many instruments, I've seen some videos. I'm like, wow, I think she's playing the ukulele there, and now it's the piano, and now it's the guitar, and now, so you're just playing everything. You obviously write your songs, you write the music, and you told me that you kind of sometimes have a very structured idea, and then you kind of give it to those folks who are working with you, the other musicians, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
let them do their thing. Does it
Yeah,
become just an incredible experience to see something that you have created in your head come to life with other musicians?
it is the most wonderful feeling in the entire world. And
Mm-hmm.
it's why I should say, I'm a piano player first,
Mm-hmm.
and I dabble on all the other things. I wouldn't, you know, some people are like
Yes.
multi-instrumentalists, like Jacob Collier or Prince. They play every single instrument like it's their first. That's not
Right.
me. I'm a piano
Right.
player, and I compose, so I know how to compose for different instruments, and then I kind of dabble on the rest.
Okay.
But there is nothing like being in a studio or being in a space, because it's people, you know what it's like? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, if you're cooking and I'm just the one cooking, and I just, you know, I don't know, it's a
Yep.
simple ingredient.
Yep.
But then when you bring other people and they bring their
Mm.
sauce and they bring their, and then it just elevates the whole thing. Or even another example is like, there's nothing more, you can eat by yourself, that's fine, right? You know,
Right.
you're enjoying
Sure.
your food.
Oh, sure.
But isn't it more enjoyable being around the dinner table and the food is great and everyone's talking and the wine is
Yeah.
flowing? That is what it's like.
Yes.
But even more amazing, because it's in your, I mean, it's a strange thing to explain, but it's in your head. Like, I have an idea in my head,
Right.
and then someone understands what's in my head,
Right.
and then I hear them playing what I imagined in my head, and it's like, what? sometimes
Yeah.
there'll be times, sometimes in rehearsals, and this is why I miss, the pandemic meant people weren't able to play.
Right.
But sometimes they'll be in rehearsals, especially if it's a new song, so
Okay.
we're learning it. Where I'm just smiling to myself. I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm like,
Yes.
wait, concentrate. You have to lead this band, concentrate. But I'm just having this wonderful time with these incredible, and they're also incredible musicians. I remember someone saying, and it's something I've always taken on, they said, always work with people that are way better at you
Mm.
than you or what you're doing. You don't want
Okay.
people that
Yes.
you're kind of dragging along. You want
True.
people that elevate, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So all the people, like the bass player I work with, I've written this bass line, and he'll be like, okay, it works, but what about this? Or he'll add his color to it. And I'm like, gosh, I hadn't thought of that. Amazing. So I
Yeah.
love it. It's like one of my favorite things in the world.
Okay, speaking of, you kind of talked about a stone soup sort of vibe there when you were talking about
Yeah,
people bringing their items. So this brings me to our nursery rhyme EP. Okay, our
yeah,
nursery stories. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
And let me tell you, I found it by accident. So I know that, again, being the consummate professional that you are, you sent me everything I needed, but I had already searched some stuff out. And so I found this by
Okay.
accident, and I'm like, oh, nursery rhymes. Okay, what's that about? And
Mm.
so I came across Ruthie in the Stars. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, Ruthie in the sky. Yeah,
In the sky.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. So, guys, this is for adults. I mean, it's not, I mean,
yeah,
when I say that, it is grown up. It is something, and I
yeah.
think that I listened to an interview and you talk about it's something that's supposed to like be consoling, like how kids get
Hmm.
consoled by
Hmm.
nursery rhymes. But I mean, this stuff is phenomenal. The jazz, and it's totally, it doesn't sound like the nursery rhyme. You get that it's connected. Tell us, how did you even come up with the concept of doing something like that? What was the reason that you thought, hey, this is
Yeah.
what I'm putting out?
I can't, a few things happened. But I remember, I have all these journals, and I remember writing down somewhere, I want to do something called nursery rhymes for grown folks, because I think, you know, adults, this phrase, hashtag adulting,
Yeah.
adulting is hard. Being a grown
Woo.
up is hard, right? And sometimes you're just like, I don't feel like being a grown up today. Or you just want someone to just tell you it's okay. And I think I had this idea, and actually on one of the songs on there, on that particular EP, and so there are particular incidents that happened that led me writing to some of these songs. So
Okay.
Twinkle Twinkle, I was in Haiti after Ruthie in the Sky, Twinkle Twinkle Ruthie in the Sky. I was in Haiti just after the earthquake,
Okay.
and I went with a Haitian friend of mine who wanted to go outside of Port-au-Prince because a lot of the sort of aid, if you like,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't getting out into the rural area. So we went to the rural area, and we were in this place called Leogan, which is really, really about 4 hours from Port-au-Prince. And, we went to Port-au-Prince, and I have footage of it. There was just rubble everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
dead bodies under the rubble. Anyway, we get to Leogan, and actually it was an area called Petite Rivière de Nip, like Little Rivier Nip. I don't know what Nip means. Anyway, and there
Okay.
was a young girl there called Ruth, and she just took a shine to me, and she would just follow me around, and we got on really well. And it turned out that basically she'd lost her mum, not because of the earthquake, but for some other reason. But she just felt like we just became very close. And I have a really nice picture of the two of us. And one day we were talking, and she said something like, I said, oh, we're talking in French, and I said, oh, how do you see me, as your sister or your mum? And I think she said, I think of you as my mum.
Oh.
And I remember we were leaving, and she was inconsolable that I had to get out of the car, and I said, I promise I'll come back.
Yeah.
And when I came to London, I wrote the song for her. So the song is actually for her. And so
Wow.
there's a line in it where it says, truth is, life is hard sometimes. I'm just sorry you found out so soon.
Mm. Yes.
And so so the song is for her.
Mm.
And I think, Twinkle Twinkle is, everyone knows Twinkle Twinkle is.
Yeah.
So that song was for her, actually, but I
Mm-hmm.
put it on there. So there's always, most of my songs have some kind of story behind them. There's another song on there, and I've even forgotten the name of it because it's been so long, but I think it's the last one, Rockabye Baby. And that
Okay.
was this crazy story. I was cycling home, and that's where I said, basically this idea that adults need this kind of calm. We need to know that it's going to be okay. Like you know, sometimes when we were little, your mum left the light on because you were afraid of the dark, that kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, but adults need the same thing. And this story was specifically, I was cycling home and there was this young black woman. And I remember it was a Sunday and she was dressed in this sort of tiny white dress, like she was going out to a party.
Mm.
And she was lying on the floor and was not okay in her mind. And this guy called me over. And I think she was having some kind of breakdown. To cut a very, very long story short, the police took her away. And I remember thinking, what has happened? Like, what was this woman's story?
Yeah.
That, and so that song was also for her. It's like this idea that, you know, rockabye baby, when, you know, on the treetop, when the wind blows the cradle with rock, this idea that there is somebody thinking about you. And we also, adults need to know that they can be safe because they can feel extremely vulnerable. And this woman was extremely vulnerable. So all my songs, for the most part, have some kind of backstory. I don't always tell it because I think people need to create their own narratives when they listen to
Mm.
music rather than always know what something is about. But I was very intentional with nursery rhymes. I just wanted, and you know, I have a friend, she told me that her daughter could not sleep without that album. And every single night she had, I mean, for my poor friend, that must have been like, oh my God, you know, just get sick of listening to things.
It's like, oh, we
But I
lost
was,
that. No.
yeah, you know what I mean? But the idea was just like, I just wanted people to feel,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to be okay. You're okay. You're okay. The way a good parent tells a kid, you're going to be okay. And it was, yeah, so that's why I wrote that, you know.
How appropriate. And I'm wondering, would that maybe need a re-release? I mean, during this time after 2020 and the things that people were dealing with, you hear everybody talking about mental health concerns. I mean, I'm wondering, honestly, because when I listen to it, I'm telling you, it is smooth and very lovely. So I'm just throwing that out there. Because,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have some questions. I kind of call it the speed round. It doesn't always work out to
Sure,
be
sure.
speedy because, as you can see, I'm going to ask a million questions because I love to dig just like you do. So the goal of Podbites with Verna is to inform, inspire, and ignite others to action. So I want to talk to you a little bit about those as goals, and I wanted to start with inform. And you kind of touched on this a second ago. When you have released your music, what are you hoping to inform people about? What is your goal? What are you trying to convey? And I know you said you want to leave them room to kind of come up with their own narrative, but what are you trying to convey when you're releasing your music?
Oh, a few. Well, I mean, ultimately, I want them to like it. So I want people
Mm.
to go, I like the song. You know,
Right,
like I make
right,
music because I could just read everything I say, right?
right.
But, you know, music bypasses the mind and goes to the heart. So there is
Mm.
a heart connection. My deep desire is that somehow through this music, people experience the love of God. That's like my modus operandi. But I try and do it in creative ways. So that's what I'd say, really, that people experience the love of God and yeah, you know.
That's awesome. Okay. How about inspiring you? What is your inspiration? And you talked a little bit, you talked about Ruth. What you talked about the Lovings, we talked about them. What inspires you? Because I know your background, as we talked a little bit as well, with law. What are the things that make you say, I'm going to write about this today? I'm going to, because there's so many ills in the world, I could say, so many hurts, so many concerns, complications. How do you pick what you're going to write about? What inspires you, I guess, to write? What is that thing that says, hey,
Yeah.
makes you say, go do it?
So many things. I'm like a massive romantic. So I write a lot of love songs. That is
Okay.
very inspiring for me. My life, the life of friends of mine, um, everything. Beauty inspires me, films inspire me, art inspires me, poetry inspires me, people, like just life, I guess, like everything. I'm inspired by everything. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Okay. Do you find that there has been something that you have maybe had to put on the back burner or something that you missed out on because you are supporting yourself through your craft? A lot of people can't say that. You were doing it. You were doing this thing and you're continuing and moving forward. But is there something that you feel like you've given up? Is there something that you've had to sacrifice to have the success that you're seeing at this point?
Yeah, an easy life, hands down. There are many other
Like
ways.
next.
Yeah, easy life. But you know, we only have one life, but
Yeah.
there are many easier ways to live than doing what I do.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'd say an easy life.
Okay. And what makes it tough? What are the things that have made it tough? Because you talked to me about you created your own label, right? I mean, I would assume
Yes.
that's a tough thing to have your own label.
So I was actually funny. I was talking about this to somebody today. The thing is, I knew that I as a musician, I write my own music. I wanted to own my masters. I wanted to own my music because I write it. I wanted to shape my own narrative. I didn't want to feel like I had to compromise myself, my integrity, my values, um, and artistically, creatively, personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm going to set up my own label. It naturally is just harder. So yes, I own all my music, but I have to make money appear from somewhere all the time. I'm
Yeah.
always like, artists are the king and queens of like budgeting and making everything work and not paying myself so I can pay other people,
Mm.
foregoing something but I have a long range view in mind and I know what that is. And but it has meant a lot of short-term things, being denied a lot of short-term things. When you have the support of a record label with money, it means that you get a certain amount of money up front, that they assist you with certain things. I feel like I remember Tyler Perry talking about, how he started his business and
Mm.
his company. And we know he used to sleep in his car,
Right.
and but he said, he knew how to use the mop. He knew how to answer the phone. He knew how to, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
a bit like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I know how to use the mop. I do my account, like I know how to do my accounts. I know how to answer the phone. I feel like I do a bit of everything,
Yes.
which on the one hand is great because I think like I feel like I understand, I suppose, my business from a global perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But it means sometimes I just want to sit around. I tell you, I'm waffling, but I remember
It's fine.
watching a Lenny Kravitz
Okay.
documentary,
Okay.
and I love Lenny Kravitz, and
Oh
he
yeah,
was
he
in
is
his
phenomenal.
yes, and he was in Barbados in Eleuthera, Bahamas, sorry, in Eleuthera, his studio, and he says,
Okay.
I live here in my Airstream trailer making music, and it's like, oh, it's not right, and he was spending time making, stretching out, making this record and stopping and starting. And he's like, oh, my life is really simple. I was like, your life is simple because you're a multimillionaire.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
yes.
you can
That'll
do
make
that when
life
you're,
more
I can
easy.
live in
Yeah.
my, it really is to sort of be like, and that's no shade to Lenny. Like,
Mm.
I love the fact that he has made this life for himself and that he
Oh
can
yeah.
choose that. But when you're sort of hustling and trying to make it's a lot of, juggling all the time. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
choice I made. Nobody forced me to do it.
Right.
But I can honestly say the sacrifice it's not an easy life. It's a wonderful life. It's a fulfilling life. It's an enriching life. I feel like, you know, I will die knowing I've lived the life I meant to live, but it's also very difficult. And I
Yeah.
think it's not this romanticized where you get chauffeurs picking you up and hair and makeup and da, 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 da. That's not my life
Yeah.
at all. At
do you feel
all.
do you feel there's a lot of pressure? And I'm going to keep, I call this, you see what I said, I called it the speed round. We see where this is going. But do you feel like there's a lot of pressure because you are having to rely on yourself, as you said, for all of this stuff? And I know that you've picked some people up that might help you with this or that, but you have to, like you said, you're budgeting, you're watching your money, you're watching and kind of projecting what you can do. Do you find that there's a lot of pressure on you? Do you feel like, wow,
Yeah,
I yeah.
there are times where I feel overwhelmed and just like, why am I doing this? I could be, a lawyer with a nice pension. But you have to, you're weighing up, you're always weighing up why. And because I know if I didn't know my why, I
Mm,
wouldn't be doing this.
okay.
And
What's your
and I
why?
think it's also my why is, I want people to enjoy music and to experience that hope and love through
Mm-hmm.
this music.
Yep.
So I have like a purpose as to why I'm doing this. If I did like my why couldn't be I want to be famous. That wasn't a strong enough why for me.
Right.
Or it just wasn't, and so I needed to have a strong why that just keeps me going. And then you'll have moments like you'll play with the band, you'll do a gig, you'll do a concert, and something so magical happens, and people come up to you afterwards, and people are crying afterwards, and people are moved by, and then you're like, okay, well, I still haven't made any money tonight because I have to pay the band,
Right. Right.
but this
Yeah.
is something that you cannot put a price on.
Right. That
And,
impact. Hmm.
yeah.
I was going to ask you that other I meant to get to that is ignite.
Mm,
So, what do you hope
mhm.
to ignite in folks? And I think you've talked a little bit about it, but as you are impacting what you just said, and you're seeing people coming up after maybe your shows, what are you hoping to ignite in them when they're listening to your music and you're performing?
Um, I think I always think I'm facilitating space. My friends in the activist and sort of health spaces talk about facilitating or holding space for people.
Mhm.
I believe the world is better when there are more artists in the world. I believe the world is better when more people are given the space to create. So I want you to come into a gig and feel like I can just, it's been a long week, whatever. I can escape in this music. I can have a good time in this music. I can relax in this music. I can feel loved in this music. I can feel hopeful in this music, through this music, and just have a good time. The arts, especially with everything that's going on, it's not a tangible thing. It's not something that you can sort of put necessarily a price to or sort of
Right.
box in the way we can other things, but it's so vital for our existence. It's the thing. Like I'll give you an example. So I do this thing where at the end of every concert, I like to just sing over people.
Hmm.
So I'll choose someone in the audience and I'll say, okay, I'm going to make up a song about you on the spot. And I remember, and it doesn't necessarily rhyme, but I'll just,
Yeah.
and I remember we did this one concert in a gallery, actually, the National Portrait Gallery in London.
Yeah.
And I remember before the concert started, I noticed this man, and he came by himself, and he looked so lonely, and he looked really sad. And I remember he had almost like kind of like a psoriasis or an eczema on his face, and he just looked so like his soul looked sad.
Mm.
And anyway, so at the end, I'm like, okay, I need some volunteers. And people never know what I'm asking them to volunteer for. And he put up his hand, he said his name. I said, okay, I'm going to sing you a song. And there were some other people. At the end of the concert, he came up to me crying. And he said, I don't know why I'm crying. And I was like, it's fine. I just said, I just want you to experience the love of God in this moment. And you're so loved. And he was like, whoa. And that stuff you can't, for me, that's the stuff that lasts long beyond all the other tangible things. And that moment, it really moved me. Because I was like, oh, music can be really, really powerful when you understand. I really believe that when I go on stage or when artists go on stage, we are in service to the people that we're playing to.
Hmm.
Obviously, they bought a ticket and we're glad for that. But actually, I sit down, I'm like, I'm in service to these people, and I just want them to whatever they need tonight, I just want them to receive that. And it's a very different way of experience when you understand you're in service. And again, that's my why. And because I know my why, I'll put up with all the other things.
Exactly. Oh man, that is incredible. And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I don't know that everybody who's in the business, I'll just put it that way, is thinking in that way. And so that story to me is amazing, to connect with a concert goer at that level, to be able to think of them and think of what their need is when you're giving a concert. That to me is incredible, which of course people speaks to why you're on the show and why I wanted to talk to you. We talked about missed opportunities. Talk to me a little bit about who not motivate you, but who are your advisors? If you have to make big decisions, who are your advisors? Who do you go to, and that sort of thing?
Oh, so what I've started to do now, I have a group of friends that are like, we're all creators, and we started up this sort of group. And we were creators across industries, film, TV, you name it,
Hmm.
the hospitality industry, graphic design. And if it's a creative thing, that's the people I go to. They're the people they champion. They're the ones that always buy your tickets. They're the ones that always buy your merch. They're the ones that will shout about you on social media. But
Hmm.
what I really realized is that I I needed a group of people that were extremely practical, that think business, that
Hmm.
aren't emotional. And
Hmm.
one of the people I went to was your brother, actually.
I was, I'm
But
laughing because yes, that name has come up, and I've met a lot of people through him. We have similar, friend groups sometimes, and so it makes me laugh because this has become like the Eric Collins on like the Eric Collins show. I'm laughing, and I'm going to let him know that he's going to get a good laugh out of it, because that's not his goal, but he does. He extended himself to so many people, and people do the same for him. But go keep going.
Yeah, and he's very good at it, and he's in venture capital, he's in business, so I know he's not going to be emotive. Our creatives are going to, we desire to create no matter what the cost. And I remember, and it impacted the decision I made. I remember thinking, okay, I need to make this record. I need to raise capital for this record. It's going to cost this much. And I remember I went to him. I was like, Eric, I need to make this record and I need this much money to make it. I think he said something like, good Lord, like, you sure? And then he said to me, he said, how are you going to make the money back? And I was like, what? And he got me thinking. He said, when people make investments, they need to know that they're going to get a return on their investment.
Oh, sure.
And it impacted. So he said, okay, how are you going to, and streaming does not make artists any money. It makes record labels money, but it doesn't make artists any money.
Okay.
So I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to put this amount of money into this, the making of this thing, how am I going to get that back? That is not something that my creative friends, we talk about. We talk about how we're going to create it, what we want it to be like. So having someone like him who is saying, that's great, but let's talk numbers.
Right.
And, I have a label, I'm self-funding this thing. So those are things I need to think about, because whether I like it or not, I am a business person. I have a phenomenal lawyer, incredible. All musicians should have lawyers.
Okay.
Who read things for you, who draft things for you, who tell you to go and read the thing. It's impacted the decisions I've made. And then the other thing, and actually I talk about this, I did an episode on my podcast about this where we talked about money, is that one of the things that I think happens with women, and I think this is just in the music industry, I think it's a general thing, women tend to undersell themselves. So a man will, for what the same job will, and who even might be less qualified, will charge far more than a woman does, mixed with, I'm an artist, but I come from a very intellectual family, how can I charge as much for art? So I have a particular person where I'm like, I've been asked to do this job, how much do you think I should charge for it? Because he will always do 10 times more than I and because the music industry is not really something that is regulated in the way that other industries are, where there are sort of bands of, say, this. So you can have, for example, one producer who isn't very known, who might charge say $50 a song. You can have another producer that everybody knows who charges $500,000 a song.
Right. And they're promising different things. And they're saying that I can deliver this. And so you make a decision based on what your goals are. Wow.
Right. So my thing is really, I have definitely my thing is building a sort of more administrative side, because, the more I'm able to live from this, the more I'm able to explore some of the creative things that I really, really, really want to do that require, the money always comes, it just does, but it's obviously easier, if you can have, like I remember I've shared, when the studio I go to, there was another band in there, and they were in there for I think a year, and they sit around and they eat all day and chat, and then they might do half an hour of music because somebody else is paying for it. When I'm paying for it, I'm like, we're in there, hurry up everyone, we've got to make this, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. I'm trying to teach that to my kids, so it makes a difference when it's your money that you're using. I wanted to ask you, as we get ready to wrap things up, because I know, like I said, it is late in the UK, and I really appreciate you being here this long with us. Wanted to ask you a little bit really quickly about your podcast, because that started, I think that started at the beginning of COVID. Am I right? Beginning of 2020, maybe you started that?
Yeah.
And tell me just what the connection is. What was the purpose of the podcast? And what is your goal? How does it fit into your bigger picture, let's say?
Yeah. So the podcast is called Holding Up the Ladder. I'd had this idea a while ago, and it came from a musical situation that I talk about on the podcast. But in short, I was asked to do a gig at a very, very fancy music festival, Black Tie Music Festival. This was when I was starting out. I would not do this now, but we were told you're not going to get paid, but it's great exposure, which is, don't believe the lie. If you're an artist listening to this, do not believe this great
Okay.
exposure, you won't get paid. This is a lie. Anyway,
Okay. Okay.
so I fell for it. We get to the place and we had this contract, signed and stuff. And I get to the place and we have to wear black tie as well. And the woman that comes to greet us says, I said, so where do we change? She said, you can change in the toilet. And we were like, and I was with one of the musicians I was with. She was like a really feisty and like strong woman. She said, we are not changing in the toilet. We need a
Good.
dressing room.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank goodness for her, because otherwise, if it were left to me, we'd be changing in the loo, the toilet. And then she says, and then the woman finds a sort of corner of a tent, and there's just a table in there. There's no furniture in there. And then she brings some chairs, and I said, so is there any food? And she says to me, oh, but it's for exposure. And I said, but the contract says we can have some food. And she says, she comes back, and I'll never forget this because it was hilarious. When you go on a plane and you get those little Cokes and little bottles of water? So she brought back 3 little bottles of water, 3 little cans of Coke, 3 packets of cookies, shortbread biscuits, and 3 packets of crisps. And that was our food.
Oh my goodness.
We played to basically the bar staff and maybe 10 people. So there was no exposure.
Okay.
But on that same billing were 2 global superstars. I won't say their names for the sake of it. The 2 global superstars. And I remember thinking, none of these global artists are being told to change in the toilets.
No, definitely.
None of them are being told, oh, you should be grateful to be here, kind of thing. And I remember thinking, what would happen if that global artist said, what's happening to these support artists? I will not play unless they're paid properly. And I remember thinking, if I make it, I will not allow this to happen under my watch.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold up the ladder for those that are coming. Awesome. The idea of the podcast is this idea of sharing knowledge, because when we share knowledge, the arts itself advances. We can't honestly always be thinking about, well, I made it, so you should struggle like I did. I want to be someone that opens the door for as many people as I can. You start with what you have. So obviously, I'm not a megastar, but I try as much as I can. If any opportunity I'm given, I try and share it. I'm around people that have the same values, because I think I don't see the point of always repeating the same things and everyone having to learn the same lessons. I think we miss out on art being amazing. Think about how much more amazing the arts would be if there was a young artist that, instead of hustling all the time, could earn a living from what they were doing so that their art could improve, that didn't have to work in an office doing nothing related to art because they just have to pay bills. What if we nurtured artists? And so my idea with this podcast, I interview people across creative disciplines. I interviewed Eric. I interview writers, writers, filmmakers, cinematographers, musicians, architects, the whole gambit. But and I always ask people, one of the questions I always ask people is, what lessons have you learned that we can learn from? Let's share knowledge. It doesn't take away from you to give to me. And that is what I'm really passionate about. The 3rd season had a sort of focus. We're in the 3rd season now, and it had a focus on sort of social justice and anti-racism because of all the George Floyd stuff. And it was incredibly, I got a great sponsorship, and I started in my bedroom. But I've always learned, what have you got on your hand? Let's get on with it. But my idea is like, let's share knowledge and stop holding it to ourselves. It's just such a, like if imagine a major artist, say like Glastonbury is a big festival here. It's it's our biggest music festival in this country. If a major, and whoever's headlining ends up making millions, I'd say hundreds of thousands at least, but a lot of money because it's, it's televised globally, etc., etc. If that major artist said, I want to find out what is happening with all these support acts that are playing a few sets on the stage. Some of them have to get funding from arts institutes to pay to perform. What if someone said, okay, I'm going to get $1 million from this. I want to pay this band that I really like. I just want to ensure that this band,
has an opportunity.
I spread this £10,000. Yeah, it's like, it's not And we know that generosity begets generosity,
Generosity,
right? So it's not
exactly.
like you're going to lose money if you do that. And so I'm thinking, I'd love to be in a position where I have the kind of impact that I can let as many people come through the door,
Yeah,
or have friends that can do the same, or facilitate it for other people. Because, you know, let's try and make, you know, you have children, right? You don't
yeah,
want them to have to live exactly the same hardships. You want them to excel, right? You
exactly.
want them to go further than you've ever
Yes,
gone.
take
That's
what I
what a good
have and
parent
move
wants.
forward. That's right. You know, that's in
Right.
so many disciplines. I hear that so often that people get to where they're
Mm,
going, and I've seen it. We've all seen it. And they just, like you said, they pull the ladder up behind them. That's your tagline on your
yeah.
podcast. And so hold the ladder for
Mm,
somebody else so that they too can
yeah.
ascend. And there's enough space up there for everybody. That's what a lot of I spend times with groups of people and we talk about that, you know, just the whole mentor idea and the fact that you are out there doing those things. And like I said, I called you and we started this relationship with me asking you for something, and you totally
Mm.
showed up. And I just really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You have been
My
phenomenal.
pleasure.
I wish you the
Thank
best.
you.
I'm going. Wait, I have some bites to go, and then some folks have been sending up. Just, you know, while we've been talking, sending up hearts and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to take a look at that and let you know what's going on because I don't think you can see it on your end. But I do want to give
Hmm.
these bites to go. These are little tidbits that you gave, which is what we try to tell people.
Hmm.
We want to leave you with information. So you talked
Hmm.
about using creativity. You said you use creativity to create social justice. You also
Hmm.
said that you have a responsibility as a Black woman and as a woman.
Hmm.
You also talked about how you work with people who you say are better than you so that they can
Hmm.
continue to help make you better. You don't want to
Mm.
be, you know, the best in the room. You want somebody who's helping you climb as well. And you said your deep desire for creating and for your music is so that people will feel the love of God, which is amazing.
Hmm.
You also talked about you believe that the world is better when people are given space to create. And so you want
Hmm.
to help with that, with your spaces that you are creating. And you
Hmm.
also said that all we need is to read the fine print, and that every musician needs an attorney, needs a lawyer to help them read the fine print.
Yeah.
So if you're using your
Yeah.
money for anything, you're saying that is a good place to put it to help you read the fine print that's out there.
Yes, for sure. Well, you know, some of these what you call it, like what I call the veterans in
Yes.
that, you know, been in the industry for years, say that some of them died broke,
Yeah.
and we all listen to their music, or they're still trying to get money back from music that they did in the 50s and 60s. I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Or they're
Yeah.
bankrupt. I'm like, that's not right. So
Yeah.
yes, get a good lawyer, a really good lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I appreciate it. You know, I always have to ask, and I am putting you on the spot. Do you want to hum a little something? Give us a little tidbit of a sound that we can hear that golden voice, or if you want to sing,
Oh my
I would
God.
welcome that too. I know I'm putting you on the spot. I
No,
know.
no, I don't mind. I just want to try and do this without knocking everything over.
Okay. All
So
right.
let me see. Okay, what I'm going to do,
Yes,
I'm going to, let me see if I can turn this
I'm
and
excited.
do this without knocking anything over. Can you hear?
I can. By the way, I love
Okay.
all the books. My mom is a music major. She told me if you have a clear piano with no music, you're not a musician. That's what she would tell me. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I'm not, but I
Yeah.
love that. So my mom would
It's a
be
mess.
excited.
Unfortunately, you can't see this side because it looks, yeah, it's a mess.
A working
Let me
musician,
see.
that's what it looks like.
I'll play this very just a little bit.
Okay.
Love in our hands is broken. Love in our hands is worn. Blur the lines of it. Twisted its form. Fragile. I've been loved when I didn't know what it was. He wanted what I couldn't give. Still he loved me even though I was fragile.
Yes,
There you go.
yes, I love that. I was listening to Fragile yesterday, and it's beautiful. Just thank you so much. Let everybody know where they can find you because I think that is going to be important and key, and I know people are going to want to follow you. So give all your spots where people can find you.
Yeah, so my website, Matsy, everything is the same actually.
Okay,
Matsudiso Music, Matshiddiso Music, all one word. It's
okay,
the same for Instagram, it's the same for Twitter, it's the same for Facebook.
okay,
And then the website is Matsudiso Music, all one word, Matshiddiso music.com.
okay,
And then I also have my podcast. And you can find me on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to music. And also my podcast is called Holding Up the Ladder, all one word.com. You can find it on wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Acast. So just type in Holding Up the Ladder. It should be the first thing that comes up, holdinguptheladder.com. We're in our 3rd season. We've had some really, really exciting people. Check it out. Follow me, support me. I'm an independent artist. Support your Black business, independent Black business.
No, that is right. I agree.
You know,
if you have a minute to say it, I think that, yeah, we all want to do that. I think that that is a goal, and that's something that we have to do. So I just appreciate it. Oh, like I said, I'm going to read because I see there's some stuff up here. I'm hearing from folks saying they can't wait to hear your music. Sorry, people, I'm all in the camera. I'm scrolling back so I can read what's up here. We got lots of hearts, lots of waves. Oh my goodness, I think I switched. I do this all the time, my life and my camera.
Just the arrow on the top corner, there are 2 little arrows. You just need to spin it around.
And of course, I don't see it. It's not coming back up.
Top right-hand side.
Yeah, I'm in the split screen. I know my husband's laughing at me downstairs.
Right hand, but I don't know what your screen looks like. We should be on the top right hand.
It keeps just giving me.
Maybe he'll come and let your husband come and rest.
But it also says, great interview, ladies. I hear that. Let me take it off. I'm just going to take it off the stand because only you are on here right now. And I'm going to turn it around. He told me to do that. This is so funny. I'm having such fun. And that made it worse. Rotate your phone. Yeah, I should have just left it. Okay, love it. I know, comedy people. I know, great interview. I'm hearing that as well. I tried that. It didn't work. And lastly, yeah, I can hear you. I just want to read these. Yeah, so folks just are really excited about hearing from you. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you talking to us, hanging out with me, and I wish you the best. And I'll definitely be supporting you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your time. This is really fun.
All right. Talk to you really soon, okay?
Take care.
I'm sorry.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
My high-tech business.
That's all right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
See you guys next. Oh, let me say this. See you next Sunday. We're going to have somebody else on 4 o'clock Sunday, another hidden figure. Be sure to be there, okay? Talk to you guys. It's still up. I know.